The dog's bark cut through the music like thunder, freezing every guest mid-laugh. Something was wrong, something dangerous. In the heart of a sun-drenched village, drums and laughter echoed through the courtyard. Bright fabrics shimmered in the afternoon light, and the scent of spices and roasted meats mingled with the floral garlands decorating the wedding. Everyone had gathered to witness the union of Amara and Kofi, a love story whispered across generations. But under the joy, shadows stirred. And one keen-eyed guardian, a loyal dog named Django, sensed it first. As the couple prepared to cut the towering cake, glazed with golden honey and decorated with delicate marigolds, Django leapt forward, barking violently, hackles raised. The music faltered. Children froze mid-step, and elders exchanged confused glances. Amara laughed nervously, waving her hand. "It's okay, Django. It's just a cake," she said. But the dog would not be calmed. His eyes were fixed, unblinking, on the cake's base. Kofi leaned closer, trying to soothe him. "What's wrong, boy?" Then, a soft hissing sound came from the cake. Not from the decorations, not from the candles, but from something hidden deep inside. Django's barking turned into frantic growls, circling the table like he was guarding against an invisible threat. Guests began to murmur, whispers rippling through the courtyard. Suddenly, a faint movement inside the cake caught the sunlight, a shadow no one could explain. The joyous celebration teetered on the edge of panic, and in that moment, everyone realized, the wedding cake was not what it seemed. The courtyard was thick with tension. The drums, which had once pulsed joy into every heart, now seemed like distant echoes from another world. Guests shuffled backward, their bright fabrics trembling as they stared at the cake that had once symbolized sweetness, unity, and celebration. Django continued barking, circling the base of the cake with unnerving precision. His growls were no longer just noise, they were warnings, a language only some primal instinct could understand. Amara's hand shook as she reached for Kofi's. "Kofi, something's wrong. I can feel it. Django, he's never acted like this before." Her voice, normally steady and melodic, cracked under the weight of dread. Kofi knelt beside the dog, brushing a hand over his fur. "Shoo, it's okay, boy," he whispered, but his own voice betrayed him. Deep down, he knew this was no ordinary fright. The hairs along his neck stood straight as a cold wind seemed to pass through the crowd despite the blazing African sun. From the edges of the courtyard, a few brave guests edged closer to see what had caused such chaos. Eyes widened. Some gasped. A child clutched her mother's hand, tears forming as confusion and fear collided. The village elders exchanged anxious glances, their minds racing through tales of old, stories of spirits, curses, and omens that hid in plain sight. Then it happened. A faint rustling came from the cake. It wasn't the movement of the wind, nor the subtle creak of the wooden table. It was deliberate and almost intelligent. The marigolds trembled. A tiny shadow slipped from between the layers. Amara's breath caught in her throat. "Kofi, look." Kofi followed her gaze. A dark shape, almost serpentine, moved beneath the icing. His heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drum in rhythm with Django's barking. He stepped closer, instincts screaming, yet curiosity pulling him inescapably forward. "Everyone, step back." Kofi shouted, trying to regain authority, though the tremor in his voice betrayed him. The guests hesitated, unsure if it was a joke, a prank, or something far more sinister. Django leapt onto the table, teeth bared. The shadow recoiled, and the dog's bark escalated into a furious roar. It was a sound that seemed to reach deep into the earth itself, shaking the ground beneath the revelers' feet. The cake wobbled on its stand, and a small piece fell to the ground, revealing nothing at first. Just layers of sponge and honey. Then the shadow struck. A tiny hand, pale and delicate, emerged from within the cake. Silence fell. The music had stopped. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath. The hand clawed at the icing, reaching toward freedom, and as it pulled itself fully into view, the crowd could see the face, gaunt, terrified, with eyes wide and pleading. Amara stumbled back, covering her mouth. Who is that?" she whispered. Kofi stepped forward, his own fear now igniting protective rage. "We need to get them out," he shouted, reaching for the figure. But as he approached, the shadows in the corners of the courtyard seemed to lengthen unnaturally. Something was watching, something old and patient, waiting for this moment. Django growled again, low and menacing, but this time directed not at the figure but at something beyond the cake. The dog's eyes were fixated on the edge of the courtyard, where the tall acacia trees cast long, twisting shadows. The villagers turned, and a collective shiver ran through them. A shape moved among the trees. It was human, yet not quite. The figure's face was hidden, but its presence radiated coldness, an unnatural weight that pressed down on everyone. The wedding, which had begun as a joyous celebration of love, now felt like the stage for a story older than any of them, a story of fear, of secrets buried in silence, waiting for the wrong moment to be uncovered. Amara's knees gave way. Kofi caught her just in time, holding her close as the dog barked and snapped at the invisible menace. The hand from the cake had now reached the chest of the figure within, still trapped under layers of icing and cake. The child, or whatever it was, looked at the crowd, eyes imploring, desperate. A scream rose from the back of the courtyard. One of the elders had fainted, overcome by a fear that was both rational and deeply primal. Others began murmuring, superstitions mixed with raw terror. The spirits, they're angry, something was stolen, something must be returned. But Kofi knew this wasn't superstition. His mind raced. Something was wrong, something deliberate. Someone had put that person, or child, inside the cake. But why? And who would dare do such a thing in the middle of a wedding? As he knelt to help pull the figure free, Django suddenly lunged past him, growling at the tree lean. There was movement. Rapid, silent, and deadly. Kofi caught a glimpse of a shadow darting between the trees, barely human, faster than any normal man could be. The child, or whatever it was, finally slipped free of the cake, collapsing into Kofi's arms. Its breathing was ragged, tears streaking the face, but it was alive. Django circled protectively, hackles raised, barking at the trees, warning of something approaching. Amara knelt beside Kofi, pressing a trembling hand against the small chest. "Oh, my God, how, why?" Kofi's mind was a storm. He glanced around at the villagers, who now stood paralyzed, half in awe, half in terror. "We need to move. Now," he said, his voice sharp, commanding, yet laced with fear. But before anyone could react, a sound shattered the moment, a deep, guttural growl, unlike any animal they had ever heard. From the shadows, the figure, tall, indistinct, cloaked in darkness, stepped forward. Its eyes glowed faintly, an eerie light that seemed to pierce through the crowd. Even the sunlight that had bathed the courtyard moments ago now seemed muted, swallowed by an unnatural shadow. The dog barked and lunged, teeth flashing. But the figure did not flinch. Instead, it tilted its head slowly, almost curiously, as if observing the chaos it had orchestrated. Amara clung to Kofi, her mind spinning with fear and confusion. The wedding, the music, the laughter, they felt like distant memories now. All that remained was the child, the dog and the figure in the shadows, whose presence whispered of secrets the village had long forgotten. Django's barking became frantic, more urgent, as though he could see what was coming next, something Kofi could not. And then, without warning, the figure raised a hand. The air seemed to thrum with tension, and the wedding courtyard fell into a deadly, suspenseful silence. In that heartbeat, Kofi realized that this was no ordinary wedding disaster. This was the beginning of something much larger, much darker, a mystery tied to the village, to the families, to secrets buried beneath years of silence. And as the shadow advanced, the dog growled, the child whimpered, and Amara and Kofi braced themselves. The celebration that had promised joy had become the prelude to a terror none of them could have imagined. The courtyard of Amara and Kofi's village gleamed under the mid-afternoon sun, decorated with vibrant fabrics and garlands of marigold and jasmine. Drums echoed through the air, laughter danced with the aroma of roasted meats, and the villagers had gathered to celebrate a love whispered about for generations. Everything promised joy, everything, except for Django, the couple's loyal dog. As the towering wedding cake was wheeled forward, Django leapt suddenly, barking violently. Guests froze, confused at his unusual behavior. Amara laughed nervously. "It's just a cake, Django." But the dog would not be calmed. His eyes were fixed on the base, hackles raised, growling as though sensing an invisible danger. A faint rustling stirred from within the cake. Then, a small shadow shifted under the icing. Guests gasped as a pale, trembling hand clawed its way free, revealing a young girl with wide, terrified eyes. Whispers and murmurs rose among the crowd. Someone had hidden a child inside the cake. Django's growls turned toward the tree line beyond the courtyard. Kofi's pulse raced as he shielded the girl. Who would do this?" he shouted. The villagers' curiosity gave way to fear as a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, imposing silhouette with glowing eyes that cut through the sunlight. The presence radiated malice. The shadow stepped closer, and the ground seemed to tremble. The villagers froze. Django lunged at it, teeth flashing, barking a warning no human could ignore. The figure tilted its head slowly, almost inquisitively, and a low, sinister chuckle resonated through the courtyard. Amara's hands shook as she whispered, "Kofi, what is that?" Kofi's instincts screamed. He wrapped his arms protectively around the girl. "We need to move," he said. "Now." But before anyone could react, the shadow pointed, and the air thickened with tension. The dog whimpered and crouched, sensing a danger that went beyond the physical. Suddenly, the figure stepped forward into the sunlight. The villagers recoiled as they saw its face, not a monster, but a man. A man with familiar features, and eyes filled with grief and desperation. Recognition struck Kofi like a blow. "Father?" Kofi whispered. The man's gaze fell on Kofi. His voice trembled with pain. "I never meant. I thought she was safe. I had no choice." The girl in Kofi's arms began to cry, the realization dawning slowly on everyone. The shadow, the hidden figure, the chaos, it all connected. This man was the girl's father. She had been hidden in the cake by relatives who had wanted to claim her inheritance, and he had come in secret to rescue her. The wedding, unknowingly, had been staged in the very courtyard where betrayal had been planned. Amara's voice shook. "All this, for money?" The man nodded, tears streaming. "I was too late before. I swore I'd never fail her again." Django barked one last warning, then softened, recognizing that the danger had passed. Kofi gently placed the girl down and embraced her father, the tension finally breaking. The villagers murmured in relief, realizing that the threat was human, not supernatural. The music began again, hesitant at first, then growing stronger as laughter returned. Amara took Kofi's hand, and together they comforted the girl, who clung to her father. The cake, now a symbol of danger narrowly avoided, remained as a reminder of how fragile joy could be in the face of hidden malice. In the aftermath, as the sun began to set and the courtyard glowed with golden light, Amara addressed the crowd. "Today, we learned that even in the brightest moments, darkness can hide. But love, courage, and loyalty, like Django's, can reveal it." Kofi added, "We must always pay attention to the signs, trust those who care for us, and protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is the true meaning of family and community." The man nodded, holding his daughter tightly. "I was blinded by fear, but I was reminded that nothing is more powerful than the bond between a parent and child, or between a protector and the innocent." As the wedding resumed, the crowd danced under lanterns and stars. Laughter, cautious at first, now carried a deeper understanding. Django lay at the base of the table, eyes bright, tail wagging gently, the hero of a day that could have ended in tragedy. The story of that day would be told for generations, a day when chaos erupted, shadows revealed secrets, and a dog's intuition saved a life. It became a lesson etched into the hearts of all who were present: vigilance, love, and courage can overcome even the darkest of schemes. And so, in a village bathed in sunlight and shadow, the wedding became more than a celebration, it became a testament to the power of family, loyalty, and the quiet heroes who watch over us when danger lurks in plain sight.